One of my very most favorite plants that grow here at the homestead is the lilac bush. It reminds me of the farm that I grew up on down at Tunnel Dam. My grandma had the most beautiful lilac bushes. Today, I'm going to make lilac jelly. Come along with me. A gallon bag. Smells so good. Let's go inside. Last night it froze very hard and the lilacs made it through. I'm seeing very little bees, which is unfortunate. Normally when the lilacs bloom you see a lot of bees, but I think it's just too cold for them to be out. However, I did leave plenty of blooms for the bees in case it warms up and they can get out and get some nectar. As I was picking the lilacs, I tried to make sure to just get mostly the flowers. I did get a few stems, so what I'm going to do now is go through and just pull the flowers off the stem. I have made the jelly using the stems and the leaves before, and it came out bitter, so I want to try to get just the flower petals. Some people wonder why you would want to make jelly with all the different varieties in the stores. But I find the intentionalness of making the jelly, from the starting of picking the flower to cleaning, or picking the flower fruit to cleaning it up and getting it ready, and to the whole process of making jelly, is an intentional act and very rewarding. It brings joy to my life, especially when you get such a pretty product in the end. We've never used pesticides on our yard, and we're a safe distance from any roadways where they spray stuff to kill off weeds. So most everything that I get out of my yard I know is pretty clean. But after I get these picked out, I will rinse them off just a little bit. I won't soak them, I'll just rinse them. And then it'll be time to make the tea. I made this jelly several times, and last year I had the opportunity to test it out on some young kids. I had this kind, the redbud, I had lilac, the redbud, and dandelion jelly. And I really thought that the kids' favorite jelly would be the dandelion jelly because it does taste so much like honey. But I was really surprised. They loved the florally flavor, the florally, is that a word? Of the lilac, and they are wanting some more this year, so we'll have to be sure and get them some. Medicinally, I'm not real certain. You would just have to do your research to find out what other things lilac is good for. But I can tell you right now, I feel so calm. It has a calming effect, just the scent of the lilac. I did go and try to do a little bit of research. Got really busy, and I got sidetracked as usual, and discovered that you can make an astringent, like for your face, just like a makeup remover out of witch hazel and lilacs. So I soaked some in some witch hazel, and we're going to see how that works as a makeup remover and a face cleanser. Another thing I come across is you apparently can actually make a wine from lilac. Doesn't that sound fantastic? Lilac wine. I don't have the lilacs this year. I didn't start in early enough picking them to make the lilac wine. And besides that, I'm going to try dandelion wine for the very first time ever. I have made the dandelion jelly lots of times, and it's a favorite when I make it. But this year I'm going to try and make some dandelion wine. So I figured I'd focus my energy in that direction and wait till next year to try the lilac wine. And this recipe right here is the same recipe that I use to do dandelion jelly and also my redbud jelly. So it's kind of a 3-for-1 here. Remember, I started out with a gallon bag, and I will do the same with redbud. I'll do the same with the dandelion jelly. If you would like a video on how I go about fixing the dandelions, which dandelions I choose to make my jelly out of, let me know in the comments and I'll make a dandelion jelly video for you. Those baby chicks are growing fast, both batches of them. It's time for them to get outside, and Jay has been working on an extra coop. Yes, I said it. We built another coop. He's as crazy about these chickens as I am. So while I finish this out, let me show you what Jay's been doing on the new coop. Wow, I am really relaxed. I have everything off and I've got the front door open and I'm listening to the birds. I think I've pulled about all the greens out. It's just been a really peaceful 25 minutes or so. I think I've got about all the green out of here. And so now I have 5 cups of water that I've been simmering in a pan on the stove during the time that I've been doing this. But I put 5 blueberries in that and just let it sit there and simmer. So now I'm going to stuff the jar. I'm going to put all of these that I can stuff into the jar. And I got to thinking, I wonder, I have some chocolate mint growing out there that's been there for over a decade. I think I'll pull up some of that chocolate mint, and if I have some of these buds left over, I think I'll dry them and make a tea and see how that tastes. All right, let me get these stuffed into this jar now. You can use a small mouth jar, but it's a lot easier with a wide mouth. Okay, so I do have a few of those left over. I think I will experiment with that in the next couple of days because there still are blossoms coming out on the lilac, and I still have some time to collect more for tea if I think that's good. So we'll put them on the dehydrator in just a little while. I just wanted to say I remembered something from a failure that I'd had before. You always want to use glass to make your tea and don't use stainless steel. I don't know that it actually reacted to the stainless steel, but it just turned a different color. It wasn't a very pretty color after I had soaked it in there. So from that point on, I've always used glass. So I don't know for sure what happened there, but I don't use stainless steel when I do this. I'm going to take my blueberry mixture. And the blueberry mixture, I put the blueberries in there just to add to the color. I'm going to squish those blueberries down a little bit so that the color comes out. Pour that in right on top. The recipe calls for 2 1/4 cups of liquid. So I always want to make more, I always boil more water just so I am sure that I have that liquid. And I'm going to pour as much of that into this jar as I can and bring it all the way to the top. And since I packed it so tightly, I want to take a stick and poke down in there just to make sure that the water, the boiling water, gets between all of those blooms. And when you do that, you'll notice that you can add more water. Okay, I've gotten as much water in there as I can. Let's top that a little bit more. And I'm just going to put a lid on, just loosely. And I'm going to let that set until it cools off. Now, some people let theirs set overnight, 24 hours. But I have found that when I do that, the color doesn't tend to be as pretty. So I'm just going to let this set until it cools off. And it should be pretty good infused by then. Now I want to talk about my jars. Canning supplies, flats, lids, all of that are getting so hard to find. It's hard for us to find around here. So last fall, as I was shopping at my restaurant surplus store up in St. Louis, I found boxes of jars of horseradish that had expired. And they were like $2.10 for 24 jars, I think is what I got. I'll count them up later, but quite a few jars, so it was really cheap. And with the lilac jelly, most of it I just give away. I'm not really going to store it, or I do have some people that offer to buy it from me. So it can go straight into the refrigerator. Sometimes these will seal, but I always tell people to put it in your refrigerator anyway. But I use baby food jars. I use anything I can get my hands on and recycle and repurpose. These are cute little jars. It's a shame that so many of them probably ended up in the trash. They were perfect for recycling, because instead of having any kind of sticky label on them, it was a clear plastic coating that sealed the top, and when I pulled that off, I had the jar. There was a little expiration date stamped in there, but I took my scrubby and just scrubbed that right off. It came off easy. So these were really perfect. The only thing is, these lids, horseradish is very potent stuff. It's hard to get the smell out of these lids. So I soaked them in soapy water. Then I took them and put them in vinegar and rinsed them off really, really good and in hot water. And I will be boiling these too, along with the jars, to sterilize the jars before I put the jelly in them. That should take away any of the residue scent that there was in the jar. While my tea is sifting, I'm going to go ahead and get my hot water bath canner out, and I'm going to boil all of these jars and all of these lids, get them really, really hot, make sure they're sterilized. After they've boiled for about 10 minutes, I will turn that heat off from underneath them and just keep them warm while I make the rest of my jelly. While I'm waiting for my jars to sterilize, I want to get all of my ingredients ready and set to go. I'm still infusing my lilac flowers, and I'm going to let them continue to infuse as long as possible. But the longer the better is what I'm told. Like I said, I tried that for 24 hours and I really didn't like the color that it became, so we'll see what happens. 3 cups of sugar, and you need this all in a pan. And while I'm at it, I want to take and stir this up with my whisk just to make sure that there are no clumps or lumps in it. You want it to be pretty fine when you pour it in, because you're going to pour it all in at the same time. And then I will need lemon juice and pectin. It takes 2 1/4 cups of liquid from my infusion. If I pour this out and I don't quite have 2 1/4 cups, then I'm going to go ahead and use my blueberry water to make up the 2 1/4 cups. I squeezed 1 lemon, and I got the juice of 1 lemon, and I got pectin. Now, I buy my pectin in the bulk from the Amish community that's up the road from us, and I have discovered that 6 tablespoons of fruit pectin equals 1 box of the Sure Gel fruit pectin. So it's just a little bit cheaper to buy it that way. Jelly's kind of expensive to make to begin with because of the sugar that's in it. So I'm always looking for cheaper ways. And you've seen with the jars. By the way, I ended up with 12 jars. That was 12, not 24. But still, you know, that's a pretty good deal for jelly jars. Okay, I have everything ready now. I'm just going to continue to get my water up to boil and let the jars boil for a little while. And also let my lilacs infuse some more and get some more of that flavor out of them. Several hours have went by. It's gotten cloudy outside and a whole lot colder this afternoon, or actually evening now. It's been about 4 hours since I started my infusion. I've had to close the door so I don't get to hear the birds anymore. But that's okay, because we're going to make jelly now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a very small mesh strainer. And I'm going to pour the infusion directly into this saucepan. Grab a spoon and pull them all out. I can smell that already, so I know it's infused. It's infused good enough for my likings anyway. Let's make sure. And then I'm just going to press down, squeeze the juice out of that. Try to get all the goodness out of there until I don't hear any more water coming out. Now, even though I think I might have 2 1/4 cups of the liquid already, I still want to squeeze these because I want to get the flavor out of the blooms. These blooms are going to go to my compost pile. I noticed that I still got some blooms in there. They fell out of the side, but that doesn't matter because now I'm going to measure 2 1/4 cups. I don't have a giant measuring cup, so like I see everybody else have. I'm going to get me one though. And I'm going to pour that in. Let's see what we got here. There's 2. Let me find my 4th on there. Get it in my head where it's at. 2 1/4. And look, that's how much I had left over. So maybe I'll turn that into tea. Go ahead and pour this in here. Rinse this out. Remember, I'm a wash as I go kind of person. Now, since I have those blooms in there, I'm going back to my strainer. And I'm going to pour my 2 1/4 cups in there. And then I'm going to take my juice of my lemon and run it through the strainer because I don't want the pulp and I don't want those seeds in there. Just going to run that through the strainer too. I'm going to use a wooden spoon for this just because it's a little bit better, and I still ended up with. I'm going to pour my 6 tablespoons of pectin in, and I'm going to stir it until it's dissolved up. No lumps or anything. Just mix it up really, really good. And then it's going to the burner. While that's warming up, in fact, I'm going to turn it down on low just for a few minutes while I get my jars ready. Have my sugar handy. There was enough water in my water bath canner to keep the jars hot. So they're not real hot, but they're warm enough that I think it'll be okay to pour the hot jelly in it. I guess we'll find out. I don't think I'm going to need all 12 of these jars, But it's better to have too many jars ready to go than not enough. I've got that started warming up. I'm going to turn the heat up now that I have my jars ready. And I'm going to continuously stir this till it comes to a rolling boil. You'll notice that it's starting to foam up. All jelly foams up, so when you make jelly, you want to make sure that you have a pan that is plenty deep enough for that foaminess. And we'll scrape that off in a little while. So I'm starting to hear it. It's getting close to a boil. You can hear that. And I just slow down every once in a while to check and see how the boil is, if it's boiling yet. Notice the color is getting more purple. That's a reaction with the lemon juice. Lemon juice is important. Don't leave out the lemon juice in your jelly recipes. Now that's a boiling, but it's not really a rolling boil. We want one that you can't stir down. I can smell that lilac smell. It smells good. You want it to be really good and hot so that when you add your sugar, it returns to a boil pretty quickly. So you can see that's really boiling now. And I think I can add my sugar. Remember, you want to add this all at once. Stirring while you're adding it. Hopefully I'm catching that on camera. I bet that pan was in the way. Sorry guys. But you get the drift, I think. Okay. And we're just going to stir it until it comes to a rolling boil again. So pretty. And you can hear it gradually. You hear that sound? That means it's getting close to a boil. Cooking is about smelling, feeling. It's not just taste. You have to use all of your senses when you're cooking. Really, the sound of cooking food is indicators of where you are in the stage of cooking. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. And again, it's an intentional thing. You can't do anything else except make jelly. And it gives you time to reflect, meditate, unless you're doing a YouTube video. Okay, you can see that that is coming to a boil. And it's starting to foam up. Notice how that's foaming up. That's what we want. And from now on, we're going to count down for 1 minute. I'm going to turn the heat down. We're still very liquid. Looks like we're not going to have a lot of foam to... Some jellies you have a lot of foam and you have to scrape that off with a slotted spoon. It looks like we're going to get away without it this time. Okay, it's time to put this in the jars. I'm going to use my stainless steel funnel just because it's easier to clean up. And it won't melt under the heat. This is really, really hot, guys. And I'm just going to pour a little at a time. Since my jars kind of cooled off on me, I just want to make sure I don't crack them. And I'm going to fill them up almost to the top. A little more than if I was actually water bath canning them, which I won't be doing with these jellies. I can see that it is gelling. It's forming a jelly on my funnel there. So I believe these are going to set up good, guys. I like this recipe because it is a small batch recipe. When you are making a jelly that people haven't heard of, you don't want to make a whole lot to have in your cabinet for a long time. Especially if you're not going to seal them up, which I'm not. And you're not invested so much in things like sugar and your pectin. Now I'm going to immediately put the lids on these. You can smell those. I want to make sure. Nope, no smell. Okay, I'm tightening them down. And I'm going to turn them over. Because that will help cause a seal on them. like I said, I'm not going to depend on that seal. But if it will seal, that's that much better. That's that much longer it can last. All right, we're just going to leave them like that for a couple. We're going to leave them upside down like that for about 10 minutes, and then I'll come back and turn them back up, right side up. Okay, guys, I encourage you to try this recipe. It really is. I'm going to taste it, actually. And make sure. Look, and you can see it's gelling on the, it's going to be a soft gel, just exactly the way I like my jelly. Let's taste it, though. It's just a flavor like none other. It's delicious. So it's got a florally flavor, and it's sweet, and it's tart, and yummy. Alright, that's my recipe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment. Please like and subscribe to my video. It's a way that you can support my channel for free. Also, share this video if you think anybody would be interested in learning how to make their own lilac jelly. Until next time, love and peace to everyone.